and welcome to 30 Days of Hoya. Today we have Hoya Akuda. This actually is Hoya Akuda EPC 997 Stable Pink Splash. That name is a mouthful. You can see a better view of the Hoya in the second frame. Now the newer growth doesn't have so much splash, but the older growth, you will see in the close-up, does have a lot of silver in it. I'm not entirely sure why it's called Stable Pink Splash. To me, the splash looks silver. Under certain light, it does look a bit pinkish, but under the natural light, I don't think it looks that pink at all. I left this Hoya on the trellis for the sake of the video as well. I usually remove it because I don't like how these look like. I think they're a bit ugly, so I'm looking for a different solution for that. But this Hoya has a new vine growing in and I don't want to damage it. And it does have a couple of new leaves that are super tiny. You can see one leaf there and then another one is just down there. So I'm a very uncoordinated person, so I don't want to damage anything, so it's better to keep it on this ladder trellis type of thing. Hoya Akuda is native to Southeast Asia, to Malaysia, Thailand and Indonesia. In terms of temperature, I didn't find the exact temperature range for this Hoya, but I would say you're probably safest in that intermediate range. I didn't notice that this one will slow down if it's a bit cooler, and by a bit cooler I mean my temperature was around 20-21 degrees Celsius, which I believe is around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and this one didn't slow down. Unlike some others like Hoya meredithii or meredithii, that one did slow down, but this one was completely fine. So I do think this one will do well in that intermediate range, which is anywhere from 15 to 35 degrees of Celsius or from 60 to 95 degrees of Fahrenheit. I'm not entirely sure who cultivated this Stable Pink Splash. It is a cultivar. But I do think it's quite lovely. I wasn't really aware of this Hoya. I received it as a gift. I was ordering some other Hoyas from abroad, and then this one came as a gift, and I was very happy. It was quite tiny when I received it. It only had one vine. It was this one with maybe 3 or 4 leaves. It started to grow this vine here, but it did stop to grow, so something happened to the top. I possibly underwatered it. I don't think I touched the top of the vine, but maybe by accident. Now it put out this very long vine that you can see here, and it's continuing to grow, so I'm very satisfied with the growth rate. I received it, I would say, in October last year, so I'm very, very happy by how much it grew. Compared to some other Hoyas, I would be very happy if all of them grew like this. I keep this Hoya also under the LED light. I never tried keeping it in my northwest window, and the reason for that is I really wanted to preserve this splash here. Now, I'm not sure how good of a job I did. You can see on the new leaf here, one of the new leaves, there isn't so much splash. This leaf also grew in my care. There is some splashing there. I think that growers who are able to preserve this splash do keep their Hoyas under LED lights. I heard that many people, even with Carnosa Splash, Carnosa Grey Ghost, maybe not about the Great Ghost, but for sure Carnosa Splash, they're only able to preserve this splashing under the LED light. Now, possibly this isn't too close to the light, or at least the older growth wasn't, and this one wasn't too close to the light in my conditions. It was about 40 centimeters from a 36-watt LED light. So we will have to wait and see what the splash will be on these two leaves, because they are closer, and also the tip of the vine and the leaves that will grow, they will be closer as well. In terms of watering, I never noticed that this one is a particularly thirsty Hoya. I just check it every 7 or 10 days to see if it needs more water. It's in a very airy mix with bark, perlite, cocoa peat, ceramis, and some general potting mix. There are some big chunks of bark there, if you can see, and it did really well. I I don't think it ever dropped any leaves on me. Perhaps just this tip of the vine here dried out, but I'm not quite sure if it dried out or I damaged that. It's very easy to damage the tips of the vines on your Hoyas by touching them. If they get too close to the light, if you underwater, they will just dry out. That's unfortunate. It will stop growing, but don't worry, they will possibly put out a new vine from a node below or something like that. It's not the end of the world. It's best not to touch them, but sometimes it does happen, even when you are careful. I fertilized this with every watering, like the rest of my Hoyas. This one was also under the LED light in winter, and it did put out a few leaves, so I also fertilized in winter. I just used a milder dosage. I use orchid fertilizer, and I think many people use this for Hoyas, which does make sense. They are epiphytic plants, or most of them, as are orchids, so that very mild fertilizer will suit them well. You can also use seaweed fertilizer. I saw that people use that. I also use seaweed fertilizer, and I think it's very good. It seems to me they are loving it, so it works for me. I wouldn't use a fertilizer that is too strong. Hoyas are not really heavy feeders. Remember, they're epiphytic plants, so I don't think there's need for that. In terms of humidity, I keep this at around 50 or 60% of humidity. I'm sure that you could possibly go lower with this one. I don't see that these leaves are particularly sensitive. I would say this is a very tough Hoya, so I don't think humidity really is an issue here. This one still didn't flower for me, so I'm hoping very, very soon I will be able to see some flowers. Perhaps this summer it will put out some peduncles on this new vine if I manage not to damage it, but we will see. I will definitely let you know if that happens. I don't think you can get this one in a garden center, especially the Stable Pink Splash. The name just suggests it's a collector's item, so I don't think you can find it. Usually Hoyas that have splash, like Carnosa Splash, Akuda Splash, or just anything with splash, you will possibly never see those in a garden center. Collectors have them and they sell cuttings. I never even saw that they are sold as huge plants, perhaps 2-3 note cuttings or 1 note cuttings, and that's definitely how this one came to me. It was just, I would say, a 2 note cutting that was rooted, and that was sent to me as a gift. It was a wonderful gift, and I'm very happy I received it. I think it's a very nice addition to my collection, and I also believe it will be a very nice addition to your collection as well. This was Hoya Akuda, and I will see you in our next 30 Days of Hoya.